Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well out there. For those of you that did not tune in to our live pregame show on Sunday, Brendan and I would like to wish a happy belated Thanksgiving to you, and also to ask you specifically to please tune in to our live pregame shows and postgame shows and weekly broadcasts, because we need to pay bills, so we need your contributions. But on that note, I hope everybody is having a great week. I know up here in the north, we went from unseasonably warm fall weather to dead middle of January, middle of winter freezing temperatures like that. So, here we are in early December, but I hope everybody is trying to stay warm wherever you are throughout this great nation of ours. And on that sarcastic note, I am Bob Rose. I am one of your co-hosts to your Bayou Blitz podcast. Joining me, as he does every Wednesday night, or when we decide to move, flex our muscle and move Wednesday to a Thursday, Brendan Boylan. Good evening, Brendan. How are you?
Good. Weather here's been weird. We had snow yesterday morning. I woke up to not a lot, right? Not anything crazy, but a little bit more than a dusting, maybe a little bit less than an inch. And Charlotte hadn't had snow in a handful of years, so that was weird. My dogs didn't know what it was, right? That's always the entertaining thing when you have dogs, you have small kids that see snow for the first time. And they're like, what is this? And naturally, my dogs were just like food, num, 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 num. And we're just trying to eat snow. You're like, I mean, that's fine. You could get yourself into worse things, I suppose. Speaking of getting yourself into worse things, the injury bug continues to hit the New Orleans Saints. And it's the interior of the offensive line, something that has been a major talking point for majority of this season. But Bob, not to overreact, but all three starting interior offensive linemen did not practice today. What's the latest from New Orleans?
Yeah, listen, and it's hard not to overreact to that because we have seen this Saints offense without all three starters on the interior of the offensive line, and we know the type of product that we get. It's a lemon. But yeah, basically the latest injury news for the Saints, obviously, unless you're just landing on planet Earth in the last 24 hours, that Taysom Hill is out for the season, knee surgery. So we wish Taysom, the best of luck and a full and rapid recovery. And Tay, just enjoy time and enjoy the holidays for your family with your family. Get recovered for next year, and we'll see number 7 back in a Saints uniform, stronger than ever. I'm convinced of that. But then, the latest news is, Eric McCoy, who did not suit up against the Rams, and has now missed 8 of the last 9 games, did not practice, still listed with that groin injury. Lucas Patrick, who missed his 3rd or 4th straight game and like 5 out of the last 7 with an ankle injury, he did not practice. And I must have missed this on Sunday against the Rams. Cesar Ruiz is in concussion protocol. So unless somebody beat him upside the head after the game, at some point, Cesar, and with the way he's been blocking throughout his career, I can see how that could happen. But if that didn't happen, I missed how it happened during the game to Ruiz. But he's in concussion protocol, so did not practice on Wednesday. And obviously, and you've written about this when you wrote, for Saints News Network, Brendan. You outlined some of the ridiculous concussion protocol that these players have to go through and the time period that they have to go through them. So, Cesar Ruiz is a, legitimate question mark to play on Sunday against the New York Giants. Now, those are the 3, bad injury news. I know you have, you and I, but I'll let you break, some of the potential good injury news.
Sure. Potential, the scariest word in sports, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, the potential good news is the Saints have 2 players that are eligible to come off of IR. The Saints have not opened up their 21-day window quite yet, but that's Bub Means, who was starting to put some things together in his rookie season before going out with injury, was really showing some flashes and some promise. And then a guy that I still haven't sold my stock on, I might be one of the very few people in the Who Dat Nation or fans in general that haven't sold their stock, and that's Kendre Miller. And Miller did speak with media a little bit today, and it sounds like him and Rizzy have a really good relationship. And he made a couple references to being a dog on a leash or being in the dog pound and just being able to get off the leash and kind of run wild. I thought that was an interesting jab, if you will. Maybe a little bit more than a jab. I think that was
a full right cross.
I was gonna say that was probably a right hook more than it was just a jab. But excited to see when and if Kendre Miller comes back as well. Because at this point we know that you know what you got with Jamal Williams. Jamal probably won't be back next year. I think that's kind of a safe assumption to make at this point. So it would be nice to see Miller get some reps behind Kamara and see how creative the Saints offense under Kubiak can be when you have two guys that are both, well, I mean, Alvin Kamara, one of the best, if not the best receiving back in the league. It wasn't on display last week with the 3 or 4 drops he had, but we'll just let that one slide. And then you have a guy like Kendre Miller, who we both said through the draft process, like, look, you know, in TCU's system, he wasn't a guy that had to catch a lot of passes, but he's more than capable. And he's a bigger built guy than I think people kind of give him credit for, right? He's stocky with speed. So I am excited for that. I'm also excited to have just a receiver. I mean, there, you know, just in general, like a receiver, a name that we know, not a, oh yeah, I forgot they brought that guy up, or oh yeah, I forgot he was, that kind of thing. So that's some of the better news for the Who Dat Nation today.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I'm excited to see both players back in action, hoping to see both players back in action. We know that the Saints have a lot of rebuilding on this roster to do. This offseason, realistically, folks, is probably the next couple of off seasons. So you need all the young players that you have on your roster now to really show what they can do. And Kendre Miller. I get that everybody, and I am too, I get that everybody is frustrated with the amount of time that he has missed due to injury. But even if you're angry at that, you have to admit that when Kendre has been on the field, he's shown something. And you pointed out, Brendan, that Bub Means was looking like he was coming along, looking like he was getting a better grasp of the offense and of the NFL coverages in general. When he hurt his ankle, I believe that was against the Chargers. And what's the two spots we've been yelling about, because of lack of offensive depth all year long? Wide receiver, and you're still without Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and running back, and you're without Taysom Hill. You've been without Kendre Miller, and Jamal Williams has shown you virtually nothing. So it's been Alvin Kamara and a cast of really practice squatters and street free agents. So Bob and Kendre, if they have, when they have the opportunity to return, they really have a chance to put something on film that whether Darren Rizzi is the permanent head coach after this year or whether they bring in someone from the outside, a lot of these guys are auditioning for their jobs. Not necessarily even just with the New Orleans Saints, but even perhaps even throughout the NFL. So you're trying to put some good tape out there. And if you're going to remain with the Saints, as we said, there are so many players on this roster, 30 and over, or on the back half of their careers, or playing out the string of a rather large contract. Well, Kendre Miller, Bub Means are not two of those players. They're one is a second-year player, one is a rookie. So obviously they're on very salary cap friendly contracts as well. And if these two players prove that they can play, that almost eliminates or certainly reduces the need for running back depth behind Alvin Kamara this offseason. And, if you're smart enough to go after MVS for a contract extension and you assume Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are going to come back healthy, I think a foursome of Olave, Shaheed, Valdez-Scantling, and Bub Means, if he shows that he could play, I mean, that's a decent foursome to go into next season with.
It looks certainly better than it has the last few years for the Saints. You'd be giving yourself a guy in Olave that I think we all believe is going to be an all-pro caliber type of guy. You have a guy you can break the game open, Rashid Shaheed. You have another guy who can break the game open, in MVS, and then you have a guy in Bub Means who can be your intermediate to short type of guy. I like that a lot better than what the Saints came into this
Mm-hmm.
year with. I might even like it more than what the Saints came into the year prior with.
Mm-hmm.
And then to the running back depth thing is, like I just alluded to, Jamal's more than likely not coming back. Taysom is not going to be ready for the start of next year. You would assume, based off of standard timelines for an ACL injury. But it is
Taysom Hill might
Taysom
be
Hill.
superhuman.
Yeah, he's a little bit more a Superman, so you can never fully throw those numbers out there when it comes to him. But you need to know what you got in Kendre Miller so you can kind of attack free agency and the draft in a certain way. And if Kendre comes out and plays well, right, and he comes out and proves he's what you need him to be, well, then maybe you don't need to spend big money in free agency or even decent money in free agency. And maybe opposed to spending a third-round pick on a running back, you're spending a day 3 pick on a running back. That makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. So those are going to be important things. But as excited as we are about those potentials, whether it be this week or the next, it's hard to see what you have in guys when your interior of your offensive line may or may not play. That's going to make a big difference. Now, the Saints do have a good opportunity this week against the Giants to face a team that is struggling, that does not have a whole lot of talent, that is on their third quarterback. I believe it was earlier today the news came out that Tommy DeVito is not expected to play against New Orleans.
Missed that.
It'll be Drew Lock yet again. That the injury for DeVito, they do not foresee him being healthy enough with the forearm injury to give it a go. So you're on quarterback 3 for the Giants. You're facing a team that does not have a whole lot of momentum and really doesn't have much of an identity right now. That's a good opportunity for some of these guys to get some good tape out there.
Yep.
Because let's just be honest, at this point, are the Saints really competing for anything? Mathematically, like technically, I guess you could still say, yeah. But if we're being realistic about everything, right now, they're doing what Bob alluded to. You're fighting for your own job, whether it be in New Orleans or somewhere else. Rizzy's, coaching to prove he could be the head coach of the team or, revert back to what he was and being the top assistant for another franchise. It's a really good opportunity to put some really good tape out there and maybe get some, maybe get a little bit of momentum back as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, and Jordy Haltberg asked me about this on our Tuesday morning segment, and Alan Ulrich and I talked about it, at length last night on Under the Dome. So I want to bring you into the discussion. I was asked, at this point, and again, acknowledging that the Saints aren't mathematically eliminated, but the sands of the hourglass are running low. Obviously, you're going to be without, you're without Taysom, Shaheed, Adebo for the rest of the year. But what about the players that might be able to be patched up and put back on the field in must-win situations? In other words, if Chris Olave is medically cleared, if Eric McCoy is medically cleared, we acknowledge that these guys are not 100% healthy, not even close to it. And for that matter, Lucas Patrick too. But especially McCoy near the top of his position in throughout the NFL. Olave, a rising star at receiver, and both young players. If you're the coach, do you press them back into action? be it this week against the 2-10 Giants, or say you beat the Giants and you face, I believe it's Washington next. Either of the next 2 weeks, while you're still mathematically alive, do you push McCoy, Olave, and or Patrick back into action?
Push? No, I don't think you try to hurry them back per se. I don't think you try to go, if we can get 80%, that we'll take it, right? I think if the guys come to you and they're like, hey, look, I'm healthy and I want to play, then okay. But to try to get these guys to ramp up and be ready, no, I don't. And what you said too makes a difference with these guys being younger. Guys that are rising stars or towards the top of their positions. Like, why would you risk it for next year?
Mm-hmm.
And why would they risk it? Especially more so a guy like Chris Olave, who's going to have a second contract that's going to be looming here soon. Why would he risk it? Why would he be like, oh, I've had 2 concussions this year. Let's see if we can make it 3, right? There's no need to do that.
That's the Bob Rose philosophy of life.
Yeah, why not? Okay, just one more. But no, I don't see the need to do that. Now, if they were competing, right, and they're competing for an NFC South crown, like maybe that's a different story, but they're not. And so with all of that, no, there's no need to push the issue whatsoever. If anything, it gives you a good opportunity to kind of look at depth, which is something that we've preached all year, the lack thereof depth, and be able to go, you know what, let some of these other guys play and just see what you got. You know, some of these guys that have been with the team for a couple years on the practice squad, or, you know, guys that there's going to be real decisions to be made on. Where I look at a guy like Juwan Johnson, like how many more, you know, if we don't have Olave come back, can we get more reps for Juwan? Because he's been a question mark for now 2 years, and, you know, we're waiting for that leap. We're waiting for that emergence into being one of the better receiving tight ends in football. We just haven't seen it. We both like Juwan. We both like what he can bring to the table, but we haven't seen that leap. So I look at that. I look at guys like MVS, who we've brought up a couple times as a guy that's like, well, could you see this guy being a piece here in the longer term, whether it be a 2 or 2 year contract, which I think is ultimately probably what both sides would want to be at, is a 2-year contract. But, you know, if you rush back Olave, you're eating into, and memes as well, is like, well, then you're cutting into MVS's reps. Things like that, I think, are important as well. So I don't see a need to rush these guys back. It stinks. I'm sure Derek Carr's hoping some of that interior of the offensive line rushes back. But there's not a need to risk it at this point. That's not like waving the white flag, right? No. That's not surrendering the season. That's just understanding that, you know what, I don't really need a guy to pick up an injury here in week 14 that's going to lead into next year, or, you know, do more damage to whatever part of their body has already been hurt this year. I think it's more, we've joked a lot about player safety when it comes to the NFL, but I really do think on one hand, yeah, you're looking at it from like a football standpoint and a long-term standpoint, but you're also looking at it from a player health standpoint. You're just like, I don't want these dudes getting hurt, right? You got to protect your investment at some point. And that's what I think ultimately would be the smart thing to do.
I took almost the identical same approach and philosophy on it. And I even added the caveat in. I mean, when it comes to players, when it comes to competitors, sometimes you have to protect them against yourself. I know as a player, I had coaches. I wouldn't sit myself down. I mean, hell, there were a lot of times that I shouldn't have been out there, and I wasn't getting paid at that stage of my career. And even at my peak, it was nowhere near the money that these guys are making. But you have to protect an athlete from themselves sometimes. And I'll be honest with you, when it comes to Chris Olave and concussions in particular, I'd have probably told him 3 or 4 weeks ago, Chris, sit out for the rest of the year. Take as much time as you need to this offseason. Get second, third, fourth opinions, talk to your family. But whatever you do, take the time away from the game this year, because you hate to call it a lost season. And even if you're inside those doors at that facility, if you're the Saints coaches and players, you're not publicly calling it a lost season. But I mean, if you're being realistic, you start to talk amongst yourselves, and you think, or you come to the conclusion, guys, probably not going anywhere this year. And I'd have told Chris Olave, probably Eric McCoy too, guys, don't worry about football right now. I mean, do your usual, training and recovery and, treatment regimens. Maybe if we pull out some kind of miraculous run and sneak into the playoffs, if you're ready to go then, because everybody starts 0-0. If you're ready to go then, we'll bring you back. But right now, you hate to use the phrase, we're not playing for anything. Because wins and losses always mean something to people. They really do. That's why anybody that wants the Saints to tank or just fold in their tents and wave the white flags, you've either never played a competitive sport in your life, or when you have, you sucked at it, because that's just not the competitor's mentality. It's flat out not. That's why you have to protect these guys from themselves sometimes. Because like you said, Brendan, Chris Olave, Eric McCoy, they probably want to be back on the field, especially if they're 75, 80, 85%. But the risk of re-injury comparative to the stakes that you're playing with, to me, it's not the risk reward situation I want to take in players that need to be a big, big part of my future.
Well, you're absolutely right. Absolutely 100% right with all that. Chad, thanks for popping in, getting that new member badge on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us. Love to see that. Bob, let's kind of...
Sorry to interrupt. But guys, if you read our pre-show banner, you're probably sitting here waiting and expecting, for us to introduce Michael Lewis onto the broadcast. Michael and I have been in contact all week. I'm not sure whether some wires, communication wires got crossed, or whether something happened on his end. But it doesn't look like he'll be joining us this week. So I will certainly try to reschedule. Because Michael's a friend of the show, a friend of ours. So we're really looking forward. He did a great job of introducing Pierre Thomas last week, and we certainly want Michael to have his full hour, with you guys and us at the Bayou Blitz. And obviously, one of the reasons why Michael Lewis was going to be involved in tonight's broadcast and last week's was because Brendan and I are continuing, to be a proud part of promoting the original Go Black and Gold charity fan cruise. Now in its 11th year, the proceeds benefit the American Cancer Society. So obviously a great cause. And to go along with it, it's a special and unique event featuring the ultimate fan experience, along with heavy involvement from Saints legends like Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Lance Moore, Courtney Roby, and the newest addition to the Go Black and Gold charity fan cruise on with us last week is Pierre Thomas. This cruise is going to be can be booked through the Seven Seas Travel Agency, and it's going to be held from March 27th through the 31st out of the Port of New Orleans. For booking, donations, or promotional information, contact Shireen DeWalt through the Go Black and Gold charity celebrity charity fan cruise Facebook page, or be a member of the Bayou Blitz or any of our Bayou Blitz affiliated groups on Facebook, Who Dat Domination, Who Dat Nation, and Under the Dome.
Well, let's continue to pay some bills and remind you guys that Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Underdog, Best place to cash in on all your takes this football season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. Join over 5 million fans that are already playing on underdogs with their Pick'em entry game. You could win money by making entries on your favorite players. Bob and I, we're still working. We're still trying, and we're not going to give it up. We'll see what Bob and I can cook up this week. So before Sunday, go ahead, download the app today. Use code Bayou Blitz to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the app today. Use code Bayou Blitz to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's higher or lower. You make the call on underdog. Must be 18 or older to play, 19 or older in Alabama or Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. Got to be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. And if you're in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. Bob, let's keep rolling and kind of switch up to looking ahead to this matchup with the Giants. I do think, at least forecast-wise, the Saints are very fortunate because anytime you see on the schedule, you see the Meadowlands and you see December, you're going, oh boy, the snow's a-coming. But right now, knock on wood, if you remember the Houdat Nation, game time weather is 45 degrees with no chance of snow or precipitation. So that's a great thing for the Saints. This is a Giants team that they battled a year ago. That was in New Orleans. The Saints played very well in that matchup, and they're facing a team that is, well, still trying to figure out who they are ultimately, and a team that is very much going to be in play for the number one pick in the NFL draft. Bob, when you look at this game, you don't want to chalk it up as a victory because, let's face it, the Saints are not very good either.
Right.
But what are some things that you hope to see out of the Saints in this game against an opponent that, on paper, they should defeat?
Yeah, and they should defeat very easily. But and I was asked earlier today what my concerns were, going into this matchup with the Giants, and there's a couple things that jump out to me. I mean, first of all, the Giants are a putrid offense, but let's not pretend that New Orleans is anything more than an awful defense. So it's who's going to be less bad on this side of the ball? You outlined the fact that Drew Lock is likely going to be starting at quarterback for the G-Men. But I mean, that's not the part that worries me. The Saints have given up a lot of big plays to a lot of wide receivers this year, and they're facing two good ones, and Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. So, I mean, how's that secondary going to hold up? Are the Saints going to be able to rush the passer? Because against Tommy DeVito last year, that game that you were talking about against the Giants in the Superdome, I mean, they just beat Tommy DeVito all over the Superdome walls, roof, and then some. Are they going to be able to do the same to Drew Lock? And the Giants do not have a good running game statistically, but Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary are two guys that have proven that they can make some plays on the ground. When it comes to the Saints and stopping the run, I only have to bring up one name, two words: Sean Tucker. And you see what Sean Tucker did to the Saints. And when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came to town a few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago now. If Sean Tucker could do that to your defense, man, anybody could do that to your defense. So, the Giants are a bad offense. Is New Orleans any better on the defensive side, though? That's going to be a major question. And then on the flip side, New York's actually had a couple solid defensive performances, and they're missing two terrific pass rushers. Dexter Lawrence and BJ Ojulari. I always have a hard time saying that name. But even though they're going to be missing, they still have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. We know what Brian Burns can do when facing the Saints, because we've seen it for years when he was a member of the Carolina Panthers. Now, both Burns and Thibodeau are edge rushers, so they're going to be going up against Talise Fuaga and Trevor Penning. The Bayou Blitz kiss of death continues, Brendan, because last week we were singing the praises of Penning and Fuaga. And then they go out against the Rams, and Fuaga had a decent day pass blocking, so run blocking, and Penning just had an awful performance. Forget that bogus bullshit penalty that was called on him that nullified a touchdown drive. Outside of that, Jared Verse, when he lined up on Penning's side, and Jared Verse is a powerful and athletic edge rusher. That's a combination, especially the athleticism, that have given Trevor Penning fits his entire career. Well, Thibodeau is an extremely agile pass rusher. And again, there's not many edge rushers that possess the power speed combination of Brian Burns. So whoever lines up on Penning's side, that's going to be a big test, and that's going to be a matchup that I'm going to be watching. And Fuaga, Fuaga's played at like an all rookie level. But the only thing I've questioned about Fuaga this year, he's been a little bit inconsistent. He's coming off 2 real good outings against the Rams, good enough against the Rams, and then real good against Myles Garrett and Cleveland. Can he continue that momentum down the stretch? Because this is about the time of the season the rookies hit the dreaded and proverbial rookie wall. Because they're not used to play. They're only used to playing X number of games in a college season. Well, you're past that point now if you're an NFL rookie. So is Talise going to slow down? Is Fuaga going to hit that wall? The edge for the Saints is going to be something I'm going to be watching very closely. And obviously, we know what Alvin Kamara can do. Is he going to be able to do it with now Taysom Hill joining Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed in street clothes on the sidelines?
Those are fair points. I think what you said about Fuaga is not talked about enough. Especially as we continue to extend the length of the NFL season compared to the NCAA season. Now, the NCAA season itself is also getting longer if you have a team that qualifies for the playoff and what have you, which to an extent I like what they're doing, but I'm afraid that college football is going to end up having like a 64-team tournament, just like college basketball at some point. But that's a different conversation for a different show. But you're absolutely right. When you start getting to these like December and then early January week 14, 15, 16, 17 matchups for these guys, it's not like they forget to play how to play. And I think that when you say rookie wall, there are some people that misinterpret what you're trying to say. It's not like they just wake up one day and they're like, man, I forgot how to play at the NFL level. It is very much just being mentally drained.
Yep.
And it starts to affect your physical performance. Some of you guys know that from, working intense labor jobs.
Yeah.
Some of you guys know that from, working intense sales jobs where you're traveling all the time. And you get to about this point in the holiday season where you have this weird, you have Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And it's like, those 4 weeks feel like absolute hell because, you've worked your butt off in your labor job. You've been traveling all year, whatever it may be. It's the same thing for football. Mm-hmm. These guys are also just getting hit by semi-trucks every day. But it is this whole – and one thing I've heard a lot, and again, it's changed over the years with college football because what are conferences? Why is this team in this conference? But back in the day – the biggest thing that I'd hear from professional athletes was adjusting to the travel schedule.
Yeah.
Because you would be playing, for the most part, until the last, 10 years, really, you were playing people that were pretty close, right? Mm-hmm. If you went to LSU, you're playing you're playing the Southeast Conference. You're not really flying all over the country to where you hit the pros and you have a game overseas, or you have a game where you're playing on a Thursday night at home, or a Thursday night on the road rather, and then you're coming back across the country to play that next, Sunday at home. And just things like that. There's the tiresome schedule
Mhm.
of it all.
Well, and I know, we're talking about rookies and young men that are 21, 22, 23 years old and literally in the peak physical condition of their life. But this is still a lot of football that they're having played. I mean, look at it this way. An NFL veteran, when their season ends, even if you're a team that goes until the conference championship or the Super Bowl, your season ends in what now, the second week of February. Yeah, you're usually afforded about a month, maybe 6 weeks off. And that's not off laying around or anything like that. That's getting your off-season treatment. And whatever your other down regimen is, down workout regimen. These guys aren't sitting around getting fat and out of shape or anything like that. But you're giving your body and your mind a little bit of a rest from football. Not long, but a little one. You compare that to the schedule that these rookies have had. They played out their last year of college football, and I mean, some of them, a lot of them, have played in a bowl game or the college football playoff, and then 2 weeks later, you're at Mobile, Alabama for Senior Bowl practices, or the East-West Shrine. You're immediately into these off-season All-Star games. And then right after that, right after that is the combine and your pro days, and your draft workouts for teams. In other words, the football doesn't stop, because that's a clean through schedule. But whether it's bowl week, college football playoff, whatever, you straight into the postseason All-Star game, straight into the combine and your pro days and your draft workouts, and then straight into the draft itself. And what do we always talk about on our draft, in our off-season shows, Brendan? 1 week after the draft, what are we talking about? We're talking about, okay, the draft picks are showing up in New Orleans this weekend for rookie mini camp.
Yep.
And then you get about 3 weeks off, and then mandatory mini camp starts. And then you get about another 2 to 3 weeks off before training camp starts. That's a non-stop schedule. And I don't care how young you are. That is both physically grueling and mentally exhausting.
Well, and you kind of heard some of it if you guys watched the broadcast this past week with Jonathan Vilma sharing a story of how Taysom Hill learned he was like the offensive player of the week. Was he got a text while he was at the beach from Darren Rizzi, and then John Vilma continues and says, well, that's what he would do with his bye weeks. And it's so vital to learn from your vets early on that those are the things you do during your bye weeks. Like, you fully escape from football. Now, it doesn't mean you get out of shape.
No.
It doesn't mean you don't work out during the week, but you just completely remove yourself mentally, and in this case, physically, from all of it. Well, and then too, I mean, you want to throw more in there, Bob, is like, not many rookies have to go through coaching changes, right? And so you throw a coaching change in there. You throw a weird 2-game winning streak, riding momentum, and then hit a bye week. And it's almost a perfect time for a bye week if you just had not had your coach fired 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Because then it feels like a new season. Like, it is mentally and physically a lot on these young men. So it'll be interesting to see how some of you say Fuaga. I'll throw Penning in there too, because that was the kind of the inside joke between you and I is like, after 2 years, Penning only played like 7 games. So like, is he still a rookie technically? All those guys, it wears on you. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. I don't like the term trap game. I never have.
No.
But do you think this may classify as a week of trappiness?
For the Saints?
Yeah, well, yeah. So to lose to the
Okay.
Giants, yeah.
Do I consider it a trap game? No, because the New Orleans Saints aren't a good enough football team to take anybody for granted. A, and B, this is also a team, this in the Saints, that lost to the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
That's you really need to stop the argument there. If any of these guys take a 2-10 Giants team, and granted the Giants are extremely bad, but if any of them are taking this New York Giants team for granted, we talk about auditioning. We talked in the previous segment about auditioning for jobs and putting out tape for the next coach, blah, blah, blah. If you're taking this Giants team for granted, you shouldn't be in the NFL. Because, I mean, have you not looked in the mirror? Have you not looked at your own tape and seen how bad your own team is? Or maybe you as a player have been playing? No, this is not a trap game for the Saints. If the Saints lose this game, it just means they were the worst of two awful teams.
I'll throw up this comment from Chad. Said he did not expect the new member thing to pop up, but he really enjoys listening to us, our takes, and keeping it real, win or lose. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Chad. Thank you very much. Chad's been a fan of our work, Alan's too, for a long, long time. So Chad, you were definitely one of the ones we refer to when we talk about the longtime fans or the ride or dies from the start. You are in that group for sure.
Absolutely. He also asked if Mike Lewis has ever mentioned his thoughts on the new kickoff rule. You know what, Chad? I'll write that down right now on my notes, and we will make sure that we get that question in with
that
Mike.
was one of my questions for Mike tonight.
Was it? Well, there we go. We'll just put a little asterisk from Chad. Just make it a Christmas gift, like from Chad with love. Merry Christmas, Mike. Here's your gift wrapped present. Gift wrapped question, rather.
Yeah, and Mike, Pierre, Lance, Delvin, Tyrone, and Courtney, all those guys have been so busy, but they have been so gracious with their time. Not only with us, but in promoting this cruise event to begin with. That I know we're going to get Michael back on the show. I know we're going to get all the rest of these guys back on the show. Probably a couple of them together too. I think that would be fun. So yeah. I mean, I hope none of you are upset that Michael couldn't make it on tonight. We will get him on. It's just trying to nail down their schedule with ours is sometimes a crazy phone tag, whether it's texts or phone calls. Between us and them, sometimes for weeks at a time.
Oh yeah, I mean, throw me under the bus there too. I mean, remember, not so much this season, but last season, my schedule being on the road, I felt like we were adjusting times every week there for a little bit. Just with flight schedules and this and that, and to throw it out there, I have a flight scheduled next week. So those of you who expect, to hang out with us next Wednesday, it'll actually be next Thursday. I'll be flying back in from the West Coast, and we'll be cutting it pretty close. And I don't want to potentially be doing a show from an airport, as entertaining as that might be for you guys. Not the most fun thing to hear that your flight is actually now boarding after a delay, and you're like, all right, guys, we'll see you later. But
and I think that's what makes our fans, the fans of this show and Under the Dome, so unique, so special, is because you do bear with it. No matter when we move our show, our broadcast, or why we have to move it, we can bank on seeing a lot of the same faces of you, in the chat, in our comments whenever we post our show promos. And I see a lot of you on. I don't see it as much on Twitter, but maybe I don't get the notifications. But I see a lot of you in the Facebook groups talking about your Bayou Blitz. You don't word it like your Bayou Blitz podcast, like we always call it for you guys, but you do promote us. In the different comments on my articles, on other people's posts. So, I mean, I can't tell you, Brendan and I both cannot tell you how much we appreciate that. Do more of it. Because the more of you we get, the more events that we can do for you. And it's been a while since we've done a giveaway. The more giveaways that we could do, we want to, over the next year. It's tough to do during the season, but we want to. We want to run some contests too, where the winner, if you choose, can come on the air with us during a show, for like 30 minutes or so, of your choosing. We like to do things for you, and again, during the season, that's tough. During these promotions that we've been doing, it gets a little bit tougher, but we can always count on you guys, through thick and thin. And I guess this is an early Christmas appreciation post that went off the rails a little bit, but we thank you and love you for it.
No, absolutely. And I was just thinking about that today too. I was like, you know what? Last year we did a giveaway around Christmas. So this year we might have to. I'm not sure what it's going to be. You and I had talked and we had made jokes. I believe it was back in the off season about Funko has a program called like Pop Yourself. Right. I still think it would be very cool to give someone a dual Funko Pop of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really neat, one of a kind type of gift to send out. So.
Brendan designed one. For us in our likeness over the summer and sent it to me. The likeness of both of them were just dead on. Because y'all know, summertime I get dark, sun bleaches my hair. I look like a beach bum. I look like the beach bum I am. And Brendan captured that likeness perfectly. I forget what little intricacies you had on your Funko Pop, but your likeness was captured perfectly. I'd like to. If we do that for somebody, though, I'm probably shelling out the money to buy something for buy two for myself.
Yeah, I think it would only be fair. We'd have to get them for us as well. So we might have to order 3 total, but no, I mean, the intricacies are really neat because, you're able to, kind of like custom design like different objects and stuff. And I think I both gave us like coffee because that's our thing during the draftathon that, keeps us alive and well. And I know we've kept track of it over the years, like how many cups. I think this year we got to how many pots has Bob drank. Bob's a little bit more vicious than I am. Speaking of which, I need to send you guys coffee for Christmas. Like, please don't let me forget to send you some of my dad's coffee for Christmas. That's another thing we can give away. I'll call my dad. He's coming up this week. I'll be like, hey, Dad, let's give away some coffee for Christmas as well. So we're gonna have
your dad sells it online, right?
Yeah, you guys. Here, I'll throw it.
You have a form right here.
I do. Blend of Hope. BlendofHope.com. Yeah, you guys go and if you guys like coffee, my dad has his own coffee company. He roasts his own coffee in his garage.
And it's delicious, by the way.
He actually has his own little spot now over in Winder, Georgia. So you guys go check out blendofhope.com. I'm going to throw it in the chat here in a second, but we'll give some away. I'm speaking for him, but we're definitely going to give some away for Christmas this year. So with all of that said, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to kind of a stream of consciousness episode.
I like that.
Just kind of all over the place, just kind of what we're thinking, opposed to more of a little structured thing. Definitely appreciate you guys hanging out. Bob, I know it's tough writing some of these articles with the team being, in the state that they are, but you are still putting out some great work. So for the people that, for whatever reason, have not caught up this week, where can people catch up with your work, and what do you have coming out this week for the people?
Well, I mean, and I've been in touch with a beat writer. I don't know whether she's a beat writer or not for the Giants, but I know she covers the Giants same way I cover the Saints. So we shot each other off of a series of 5 questions each. Regarding the teams that we cover. So when I get her responses, I'm going to have an interview with the enemy kind of article coming out. In addition to my previews about the Giants offense, my preview about the Giants defense, keys to the game, X factors, the normal stuff. Might even squeeze in a all-time history between the Saints and Giants too. So as always, I'm going to be doing that. And whatever other breaking news pops up. Roderick Teamer got suspended today. We did write an article about it. But I mean, he's played in 2 games for the Saints this year and not a single defensive snap. So it was worth an article, but not worth getting upset over. We'll continue to cover any breaking news or any developing pieces for your New Orleans Saints. And you can catch all that on my personal page, Bob Rose Facebook, at Bobby R2613 on the X Twitter, along with my site, the Saints News Network, that's being run by Kyle T. Mosley, with myself as a senior writer, and of course John Hendricks as a senior writer and beat writer. All 3 of our pieces can be found on Saints News Network or SI.com.
For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. I don't have any super exciting works coming out like Bob does every week, but you can catch up with me there on just about anything. I think one of my New Year's resolutions is going to be a little bit more active on posting on social media. I definitely took the year off. I think I needed it.
You deserved it. You got married too. I mean, hell, that's enough to occupy anybody's time.
So, well, thank you. But I definitely needed some time off. But I love interacting with you guys, so I'll be a little bit better about that. So go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram, on the X Twitter. And we're excited to be with you guys on Sunday for a pregame show of the Saints and the New York Football Giants. Until then, that's Bob Rose. I'm Brendan Boylan. Thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of the Bayou Blitz podcast. Until Sunday, hope you find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. See you then. Who dat?
Who dat?